Hi there, this is Jessica Ortner, the host of the 2012 Tapping World Summit. We are here in Woodstock, New York, and I'm about to interview an extraordinary woman. Kris Carr is a New York Times best-selling author for her book, Crazy Sexy Diet, and the creator of the Crazy Sexy Cancer series. She's been interviewed on Oprah, Good Morning America, The Today Show, and she's now sitting down with us. Welcome, Kris.
You're amazing.
Kris, I'm excited to speak with you because you're known as a wellness warrior. You've helped millions of people transform their lives and really live a healthier life. Mm-hmm. So often we learn what we should do, but then we don't actually do it. So how have you found tapping can support someone in taking, say, the tools that you teach and finding a way to actually implement them?
Well, you said the key word, which is habit. And habits are hard to break because there are neural pathways. And what tapping does, in my experience with it, is it helps to rewire those pathways so that we can break some of those habits that are so ingrained in us that keep us on the hamster wheel, that keep us hitting the sugar button or the cookie button or whatever it is that we're using to numb out, or that we're just so used to that we have actual physical, real-world cravings around. So I think that really you're dealing with the unfinished business of why you keep yourself stuck in the food coma, and also you're creating new pathways so that you can break those habits successfully.
Mm-hmm. Now, when most people think about health, they think of food and exercise.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your journey with tapping and why you think that's a really important component.
For me, health is about what you're eating, what you're drinking, and what you're thinking. So I try to create an anti-inflammatory approach for people. And the thinking part is such a big component, and tapping has helped me personally and also my readers get to the heart of their unfinished business, their emotional stress, their drama, their phobias in such a quick and efficient way.
Let's go deeper into weight loss. When you're working with someone who's dealing with this challenge, are there some common emotional blocks and barriers that are, again, very common for people that are struggling with their weight?
Absolutely, and I think everybody is different, and obviously we're hardwired with some of these cravings, and the way food is made these days, there's a lot of fake stuff put into it and substances that make this stuff addictive. So, but from an emotional side, I've worked with people who have all different issues, from being abused as a child, feeling not good enough, feeling an enormous amount of shame or guilt, and they're literally carrying these emotions in their weight. And to imagine being unburdened with those emotions can be very frightening, because who am I if I don't have all this padding of suffering all around me? So, I mean, in those scenarios, we can talk about food till the cows come home, right? But I can't get in unless we can start to address some of the bigger blockages that are holding them back.
Well, what I love about tapping is that you have a personal experience, you make the change, and that's why people are so passionate about it, because they have their own experience that they then share.
Yeah.
Can you share with us some of your first experiences with tapping?
Well, my journey with tapping began with you and your magnificent brothers, and I befriended your amazing brother, Nick, and he came and spent a weekend with me. I wasn't expecting to tap because we were just, enjoying each other's company and socializing and whatnot. And we went on this beautiful hike up the mountain, and there's this fire tower, and you can see all of the Hudson Valley. And I've lived here for almost a decade, but I've never been to the top of the tower because I have a phobia of heights, which is kind of embarrassing at the time, because here I am, learning to live with cancer and overcoming so much of my terror with that, and having these huge emotional and physical journeys that I've been on, and why can't I get to the top of the tower, right? But it's so connected to so many different things that I was experiencing and still experiencing. And so, like you probably know, your dear brother, we're halfway up the mountain, I show him, why don't you go up there, go and see what the sights look like. And he's like, you're coming, right? And I said, no, I have a fear of, oh gosh, heights. And of course, he dragged me up the tower. And we took probably 45 minutes, but we tapped on every single step, and so much emotion came up for me. And I got to the top of the tower, and it was a huge triumphant accomplishment, and it has had ripple effects in many areas of my life. And now I can handle heights, but I can also handle being out of control, right? And trying new things, and sort of facing my fears and surfing my fears in a new way. So it's metaphor, it's poetry, and it was tapping that helped me get through it.
That's fantastic, and a great example of how you start with one thing and you realize that it wasn't just about the fear of heights,
Right.
but it was other things. Do you find that happens often, that you begin to start tapping and you start to become aware of other challenges that you then focus on with the tapping?
Absolutely. I mean, Nick is my tapping coach, so he works with me one-on-one, and whenever we tap, we always start with something, and by the end of the session, we're somewhere so different, and I never would have imagined that we got there, but we got to the heart of what was going on with me, what was holding me back.
Right, absolutely. Kris, one thing I find so fascinating about you is you've built a career around, you're a New York Times bestselling author. You also travel really the world and you speak in front of huge audiences. But I know that speaking in public, even though it's something you had to do, it wasn't something that you were always really comfortable with. So how did tapping support you in being a better public speaker?
Oh gosh, when I first started doing what I was doing, I got a speaking agent, and I was being paid to give these public speeches, and what people didn't know was I was terrified inside. I mean, anxiety, sweating, I wanted to fake my own death a couple times, like how could I get out of this gig? I don't want to go. And then I started it was actually the first thing that I ever used tapping for. And it rocked my world. I worked on 3 or 4 sessions, and it had nothing to do with the audience. It had nothing to do with my ability. It had everything to do with having low self-esteem growing up and being self-conscious and shy kid, and just the stuff that we experience. And so now, I can get on stage in front of thousands of people and feel alive and myself and ready to let it rip in a way that isn't going to make me suffer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when you were working on that challenge, when do you fit in the tapping? Is it right before you go on stage, when you're planning?
I tap until the moment that I get on stage. I'm like, hi, everybody.
That's fantastic. I want to dive a little bit deeper into how tapping can help with wellness and health. How does dealing with the emotions actually affect our physical body?
Well, stress is the #1 killer. I really believe that. Not heart disease, not cancer, not type 2 diabetes, obesity, it's stress. And that is the inflammatory response that I talk about when I say turn down the fires, right? Turn down the fires from the food that we're eating, but also from the amount of stress that we're bombarded with. Because stress fills your body with a cocktail of hormones. And tapping can really help to regulate that and to bring the stress level down so that you're not weakening your immune system and setting yourself up for chronic disease. And certainly if you have a chronic disease, or if you have any problems with pain or fear, stress, any of that, tapping is a great solution.
Well, Kris, when you were diagnosed with cancer, it seems like that started a really big journey with wellness. Can you tell us a bit about that journey and how tapping played a role?
Sure. I was diagnosed with an incurable cancer on Valentine's Day almost 10 years ago. And I didn't have treatment. There were no surgeries or radiation or chemo. And when I found the disease, it had already progressed to stage 4. So I do have a slow-moving cancer that I live with, and we work together. I take care of myself, and it's been pretty calm and tranquil. So I've had an opportunity to explore all of these wonderful healing modalities. And I actually wish I knew about tapping at the time because I was so scared, especially when you hear there's no medicine for you. And I didn't have this opportunity. But what I talk about with newly diagnosed patients, and certainly what I still use when I get my regular scans, is it's a great method to tame the fear and the inflammation and the stress and the anxiety. There's something that every cancer patient experiences, and it's called scan anxiety. It's that moment before you're going to find out, is it still there? Is this something that's still active in my life? It's a very terrifying disease, and the tapping can bring you from, that's a feeling, this is a fact, you're back, you're grounded, you know, we're going to work through this together. It's an unbelievable technique to anchor you.
Absolutely, and I can imagine that when you're going through the emotions of being diagnosed, it's really hard to make decisions, and that is usually the time when you have to make the most decisions.
You're so right. You have to be clear-headed. There's a allopathic team to create. There's a functional medicine team to create. There's saying goodbye to the life that you used to know. There's a level of, I'm so angry and sad that my body is broken and betrayed me. I'm afraid I'm going to die. What do I do with that information? How do I metabolize it? How does this not suffocate me and overwhelm me? And it's like a lifeline. Any lifeline that you can grab when you're newly diagnosed, that's what you want to do. So thanks for teaching the world about tapping.
What's your suggestion to someone who is hearing a lot about the tapping, but they're still a little bit skeptical?
I would say put your skepticism aside and just submit to it. Give it a try. There's nothing to lose. You're going to feel uncomfortable or foolish for a second. You know what I mean? But it's fast. It works really quickly. And I think you can save yourself a lot of years of heartache and wasted money and endless therapy. And not that therapy isn't really important, because it is, and it's wonderful, and it serves its place. But this is like rocket fuel.
Kris, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit.
Fantastic.
Good, because I know that you don't openly talk about this, but you know, your work has really spread, and you have this great community of influential people and actors and actresses, all that follow your work, and some who are doing some tapping. Well, so I hear. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
I think that tapping is really taking off, and it's spreading. And if you think about high-level people, for example, the amount of pressure on them, especially when you decide to put yourself in the public light, it's magnified. And so if there's anything that we can do to have better coping skills as all of this is coming at you, love and criticism and insecurity, you know, old stuff coming up, that it's a great thing for people who actually are in the limelight to start doing.
Kris, we talked a lot about tapping, and like I mentioned before, you also are known for giving people great tips on how to live a healthier life in regards to exercising and nutrition. So I want to squeeze out some tips from you before we wrap up. Can you tell us a few things that we can incorporate into our lives right now, and maybe even put a few ways that we can tap?
You are so clever. I love that you said squeeze. That's the number one tip right there. So making green juice, right? Adding green juice into your life. Obviously, so many of us have to subtract some things, right?
So when you say green juice, you're not talking about green Gatorade.
No green Gatorade, no green Skittles, no green Gatorade. So actually making green vegetable juice. That's a wonderful, wonderful way to reduce inflammation, increase alkalinity in the body, flood your body with vitamins, minerals, enzymes, phytonutrients, which are the chronic disease fighters. Great stuff. You can dump some of the more acidic beverages, the energy drinks, the coffee, excess alcohol, things like that. Again, I like to look at what is inflaming you and what is boosting your health bank account. Dialing down too much meat, too much dairy. Some people have allergies to gluten. And so, just being a little detective on the wellness journey. What really works with my constitution, what doesn't? Obviously, we've read the articles. Exercise is phenomenal. I had no idea that when I started to work with my integrative oncologist, he said to me, if you really want to be bionic, which I do, okay, you got to exercise more, honey. You're doing so much right. You're doing great with your supplements and your food, but we need to move your body to boost your immune system. So those are two things. Of course, sleeping. It's so important that we sleep and that we rest and truly give ourselves those breaks. And I'd say the last thing that I would say, I'd say the final thing is don't get overwhelmed. Bite-size change really works for people, as opposed to saying, I need to change everything all at once. This is so much information. We can take it a little bit at a time, but We need to do something. And then, of course, tapping, right? Because that can be the through line that truly helps you stick with the changes.
Even though kale scares me.
Even though kale terrifies me.
Yes, I'm willing to give it a try.
I'm willing to give it a try.
So Kris, I'll mention, because you talked about green juice, exercise, and sleep. And those are three things that can definitely be supported with tapping. We have a great call in the Tapping World Summit about sleep. So we can do an even though I can't fall asleep or even though I can't quiet my mind. I love and accept myself. We also have, give me an example of how someone can tap if they're really intimidated by green juice.
Well, one thing that can come up for people is they get a little nauseous because their diet is, they're used to a lot of sodas or different kind of way of eating, standard American diet, and so tapping can really help calm the nausea and also the resistance. That's not cool. I don't want to have that. It looks like a swamp. I'm not going to do that. Right? But the health and vitality is in there, then really the only thing holding you back is your mind.
Absolutely. Well, the same thing with exercise. I heard once that exercising isn't hard, deciding to exercise is hard.
Absolutely. Even when I had my oncologist say to me, you need to exercise more, I was like, great, okay, resistance, resistance, resistance. And then I did it full on, and then guess what happened? I totally fell off the wagon, and then I came back using tapping and also using moderation, which is one of the reasons why I said, you make these changes, they can be bite-sized, but you just have to get out of your comfort zone and do something.
Right. So you mentioned falling off the wagon, getting back on again. We've all been there, and it always seems like that first time we exercise is the scary moment. That's when we don't feel good, so we can do the tapping of, even though I'm scared this isn't going to feel good, even though I'm going to start beating myself up mentally when I try to run and I look like a baby giraffe, or
and even though I'm so resistant.
Yes, all this resistance.
I'm so resistant. I don't want to do it, even though I don't want to do it. I love and accept myself anyway.
Well, those are some great tips. Also, what I love about the work that you do is you are practical. You're not about like philosophy and theories. You're about giving people real tools that they can implement in their life right away. If someone wants to begin to use tapping, do you have any suggestions on how we can incorporate it into our lives and make it a daily practice? Any tips or tricks?
That's a really good question. I think just make time for it. That's all. And it doesn't have to be a big thing. Do it while you're walking to your car, or do it, when you're in your kitchen, or do it when you're on your way to the bathroom or the water cooler. It's great to set real time aside, but just do it. You can't fail. You actually can't do tapping wrong, I don't think.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. So it's really about grabbing those moments.
Exactly.
Kris, we are leading up to the 2012 Tapping World Summit. Why do you think people should attend?
I think they should attend because it's the Oscars of tapping. It's the Olympics. Everybody's going to be there. It's one-stop shopping, and it's free. And you get to be completely immersed in this beautiful practice that can totally transform your life.
Well, Kris, thank you for letting all of us come into your home. I found this really insightful.
Thanks, honey.